What happens when a tech billionaire takes his mistress to a luxury hotel? Not knowing his wife booked the penthouse directly above them, Jackson Sterling thought he had the perfect plan. A secret weekend at the Meridian Hotel with his brilliant young engineer, Zara Williams. His wife Maya was supposedly across the country, completely unaware of his affair. But Maya wasn't just aware. She was listening to every word from 20 floors above, orchestrating the most devastating corporate takedown in Silicon Valley history. This isn't just a story about cheating. It's about stolen patents, corporate fraud, and a woman's calculated revenge that destroyed an empire and saved dozens of victims. If you love stories of justice and brilliant strategy, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories. Trust me, you won't see this ending coming. Ready? Let's begin. The security camera timestamp read 11:47 p.m. when Jackson Sterling's black Tesla Model S pulled up to the Meridian Hotel's private entrance. Through the tinted windows, a figure in designer heels stepped out first, followed by a man in an expensive suit who clearly thought he owned the world. 20 floors above, Maya Chen Sterling watched the same footage on her tablet, her manicured fingers steady as she zoomed in on her husband's face. The penthouse suite she'd booked overlooked the very room where Jack was about to spend the weekend with his latest conquest. "You have no idea what's coming for you," she whispered to the screen. Maya had discovered the affair 3 months ago, not through lipstick stains or suspicious phone calls, but through the very AI algorithms her husband's company had built. Sterling AI Solutions specialized in behavioral pattern analysis, and Maya had simply turned their technology on Jack himself. His credit card transactions, location data, and digital footprints painted a crystal-clear picture of deception. The woman with him was Zara Williams, a 28-year-old AI engineer who had joined Sterling AI Solutions 8 months ago. She was brilliant, beautiful, and completely unaware that she was dating a serial cheater who had built his empire on his wife's venture capital connections. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Detective Sarah Rodriguez. "All recording equipment is in place. Audio and video feeds are live. Are you ready for this?" Maya typed back, "I've been ready for 3 months." She walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse suite, looking down at the city lights. Tomorrow, both Jack and Zara would wake up in a very different world. Maya had spent her entire career in venture capital, learning to identify threats and neutralize them before they could cause damage. Tonight, she was applying those same skills to protect everything she'd built. The irony wasn't lost on her that Jack's own company would provide the tools for his destruction. Maya had access to every algorithm, every data point, and every digital footprint that Sterling AI Solutions had ever collected. She knew Zara's coffee order, her student loan balance, her family's address in Detroit, and most importantly, her deepest vulnerabilities. Maya poured herself a glass of wine and settled into the leather armchair facing the window. The hotel room directly below was invisible from her angle, but she didn't need to see it. The surveillance equipment would capture everything she needed for the corporate board meeting scheduled for Monday morning. Jack had no idea that Maya owned 45% of Sterling AI Solutions through her family trust, or that the company's major investors were all part of her Stanford MBA network. He'd always assumed his charm and vision had built their empire, never realizing that Maya's strategic connections and capital had made it all possible. As Maya reviewed her plan one final time, she smiled. Jack thought he was having a secret weekend with his mistress. In reality, he was walking into the most sophisticated corporate takedown in Silicon Valley history. The game was about to begin, and Maya Chen Sterling never lost. Zara Williams felt like she was living in a fairy tale as she and Jack entered the luxury suite. The Meridian Hotel's premium accommodations featured marble bathrooms, a private balcony, and champagne that cost more than her monthly rent. "This is incredible," she breathed, spinning around in the living area. "I can't believe you did all this for me." Jack pulled her close, his hands settling on her waist. "You deserve the world, Zara. I told Maya I was at the tech summit in Seattle, so we have the entire weekend to ourselves." The mention of his wife sent a small chill through Zara's happiness, but she pushed the guilt aside. Jack had explained that his marriage was essentially a business arrangement, that Maya was cold and controlling, and that they'd been living separate lives for years. He'd promised that after his next funding round closed, he would file for divorce. What Zara didn't know was that every word of Jack's story was a carefully constructed lie. Maya wasn't in Boston visiting her sick mother. As Jack had told Zara, she wasn't cold or controlling. And their marriage, while strained by Jack's repeated infidelities, was far from the loveless arrangement he'd described. 20 floors above, Maya reviewed the dossier that Detective Rodriguez had compiled on Zara Williams, born in Detroit to a working-class family, full scholarship to MIT, graduated summa cum laude with a PhD in artificial intelligence. She'd developed a breakthrough algorithm for natural language processing during her thesis work, then been recruited by Sterling AI Solutions for a salary that seemed generous until you realized her work was worth millions. Maya's investigation had revealed something that even Detective Rodriguez found disturbing. Zara's signature algorithm, the one that had revolutionized Sterling AI's chatbot technology, had been stolen. Jack's development team had taken her MIT thesis research, made minor modifications, and filed for patents under the company's name. Zara had unknowingly signed away her rights to her own intellectual property when she'd accepted the employment contract. "She has no idea she's being robbed twice," Maya murmured, studying Zara's employment file. Maya's phone chimed with a message from Tyler Brooks, Jack's best friend and the company's COO. Tyler had been Maya's inside source for months, feeding her information about Jack's activities while maintaining his facade of loyalty. The message was brief: package delivered to Z's apartment, Phase 2 initiated. The package contained a positive pregnancy test that Maya had ordered from a novelty website. It would be delivered to Zara's apartment with a note claiming it had been misdelivered from a neighbor. Maya knew from her surveillance that Zara had been feeling nauseous lately, stress from the affair combined with long work hours. When Zara found the test, her anxiety would likely convince her to take one herself. Maya walked to her laptop and opened the hotel's guest Wi-Fi network, using backdoor access that Detective Rodriguez had helped her establish. She could monitor all digital communications from the suite below: Jack's phone, Zara's phone, their laptops. Even their smartwatches would feed data directly to Maya's command center. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Maya would use Jack's own behavioral patterns against him, letting his predictable responses to stress and conflict destroy his relationship with Zara naturally. She wouldn't need to play the jealous wife or create dramatic confrontations. Instead, she would engineer situations that revealed Jack's true character, then document his responses for the corporate board. Maya opened a secure messaging app and sent a status update to her divorce attorney. Elena Vasquez. Timeline confirmed. Evidence collection proceeding as planned. Prepare for Monday morning filing. Elena's response was immediate. All paperwork ready. Financial forensics complete. He won't know what hit him. Maya smiled and closed the laptop. Below her, Jack and Zara were probably ordering room service and planning their romantic evening. They had no idea that their every word was being recorded, their every digital communication monitored, and their entire relationship about to be weaponized in a corporate war that would reshape Silicon Valley's power structure. The first phase of Maya's revenge was already in motion. Saturday morning arrived with devastating precision. While Jack showered, Zara's phone buzzed with a delivery notification. The package that Tyler had arranged sat waiting at her apartment building, containing the positive pregnancy test and a note about a delivery mix-up. Zara stared at the notification, her stomach churning with a familiar nausea that had been plaguing her for weeks. The timing seemed like a cosmic sign. She'd been attributing her symptoms to stress from the secret affair, but now doubt crept in. "I'll be right back," she called to Jack through the bathroom door. "I need to check something at my apartment." Jack's muffled response was casual, distracted by his morning routine. He had no idea that Maya was listening to every word through the hotel's compromised Wi-Fi network. 40 minutes later, Zara returned to the suite with tears streaming down her face and a pregnancy test clutched in her trembling hand. The 2 pink lines were unmistakable. "Jack," she whispered, her voice breaking. "We need to talk." Jack emerged from the bathroom, toweling his hair, completely unprepared for what came next. When Zara showed him the test, his face went through a series of expressions that Maya cataloged from her surveillance feed: surprise, panic, calculation, and finally, cold detachment. "Are you certain?" he asked, his voice flat. "The test is positive. I've been feeling sick for weeks, but I thought it was just stress from hiding our relationship." Zara searched his face for some sign of joy or support. "I know this isn't how we planned it, but maybe it's a sign. Maybe this is the push you need to finally leave Maya." Maya watched from the penthouse as Jack's mask slipped completely. This was the moment she'd been waiting for, the crisis that would reveal his true priorities. Through the audio feed, she heard him begin the same speech he'd given to 3 previous mistresses over the past 5 years. "Zara, you have to understand the timing is terrible. The merger with the European firm is happening next month. If word of this gets out, it could destroy everything we've worked for. Maya's family connections are crucial to the deal. I can't file for divorce right now. But the baby, Jack, our baby, what are you saying?" Jack moved closer, taking her hands in his. His voice became gentle, manipulative. "I'm saying we need to be smart about this. There are options, discrete options. After the merger closes, after I've secured the company's future, then we can be together properly. We can have other children, planned children." Maya felt a twist of genuine disgust as she listened. Even knowing Jack's character, his callous response to Zara's pregnancy exceeded her expectations. She made a note in her evidence file: "Subject suggests termination of pregnancy for business convenience." Zara pulled her hands away, stepping back from Jack. "You want me to get an abortion so your business deal doesn't get complicated? I want us to be strategic. This isn't the right time to start a family. You're just getting established in your career, and I'm in the middle of complex negotiations. We need to think about our future, not just react emotionally to an accident." The word accident hit Zara like a physical blow. Maya could see through the surveillance camera that Zara's entire posture changed, her shoulders sagging with the weight of realization. The fairy tale was crumbling in real time. "An accident," Zara repeated, her voice hollow. "Is that what I am too? An accident that needs to be handled discreetly." Jack realized his mistake too late. "That's not what I meant. Zara, you know how I feel about you. But we have to be practical. Once I'm free from Maya, once the company is secure, we can have everything we want. A real wedding, a planned pregnancy, a future without secrets." But the damage was done. Zara could see clearly for the first time that she wasn't Jack's partner or his future wife. She was a complication to be managed, a risk to be minimized. The man she'd fallen in love with was revealing himself to be someone entirely different under pressure. Maya made another note. "Subject prioritizes business interests over personal relationships. pattern consistent with previous affairs. The first crack had appeared in Jack's perfect weekend, and Maya hadn't even revealed her presence yet. She was letting Jack destroy his own relationship through his predictable selfishness. Phase 1 was proceeding exactly as planned. While Jack and Zara's relationship fractured over breakfast, Maya initiated Phase 2 of her plan. She opened her laptop and accessed the Sterling AI Solutions corporate database, using Jack's own login credentials that she'd obtained months ago through a simple keylogger on his home computer. Maya navigated to the intellectual property files and found what she was looking for: Zara's original MIT thesis research, filed under Sterling AI's patent applications, with Jack listed as the primary inventor. The theft was so blatant that Maya almost felt sorry for Zara's naivety. With a few keystrokes, Maya anonymously uploaded Zara's original thesis to TechCrunch's tip line, along with side-by-side comparisons showing how Sterling AI had plagiarized the work. She included timestamps proving that Zara's research predated Sterling AI's patent applications by 2 years. The article would go live Monday morning, timed perfectly with Maya's corporate board meeting. Maya's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Detective Rodriguez. Hotel security footage confirmed. Subject and target had heated argument at 9:15 a.m. Target left building at 9:43 a.m., returned 10:57 a.m. carrying pharmacy bag, emotional distress evident in both subjects. Maya smiled. Jack and Zara were right on schedule, following the behavioral patterns that Maya's psychological profile had predicted. Stress was making them both reactive and sloppy. Maya opened a new browser window and logged into her fake social media accounts. Over the past 3 months, she'd created an entire network of fictional personas designed to infiltrate Zara's social circle. These accounts had gradually built relationships with Zara's friends, family members, and professional contacts. Now Maya activated the network. Using her fake account as a concerned colleague, Maya posted in a private engineering forum where Zara was an active member, "Has anyone else noticed irregularities in Sterling AI's recent patent filings? Some of the algorithms look familiar from academic papers I've seen. Just wondering if anyone has insights." Within minutes, other forum members began responding with their own observations. Maya watched the conversation gain momentum, knowing that by Monday morning, the entire engineering community would be buzzing about potential intellectual property theft at Sterling AI Solutions. Maya's phone rang. Tyler Brooks appeared on the caller ID. "Maya, we have a problem." Tyler's voice was tense. "Jack called me this morning, panicked about something. He wouldn't give details, but he's talking about accelerating the timeline for the European merger. He wants to close the deal next week instead of next month." "Interesting," Maya said, making notes. "Did he say why?" "No, but he was definitely rattled. He kept asking about corporate security, whether anyone had access to his personal accounts." "Maya, I think he suspects something." Maya felt a thrill of anticipation. Jack's paranoia meant her psychological pressure was working. "Stay calm, Tyler. Keep feeding him information like we discussed. The more off balance he becomes, the more mistakes he'll make." After ending the call, Maya reviewed her timeline. Monday morning's board meeting was less than 48 hours away. By then, the TechCrunch article would be live, exposing Sterling AI's intellectual property theft. The forum discussions would be generating industry buzz about the company's unethical practices. And Maya would have a complete recording of Jack's callous response to Zara's pregnancy. But Maya wasn't satisfied with simple corporate revenge. She wanted Jack to understand the full scope of his losses, to feel the same powerlessness that his victims had experienced. Maya opened her secure messaging app and sent a message to Elena Vasquez. "Timeline accelerated. Need divorce papers ready for filing Monday at 9 a.m., immediately after board meeting. Also prepare criminal referral documentation for patent fraud." Elena's response was swift. "Already prepared. Financial forensics complete. Assets secured. He'll be frozen out of all accounts by noon Monday. Maya walked to the window and looked down at the city. 20 floors below, Jack and Zara were probably trying to repair their relationship, unaware that their every conversation was being recorded and their digital communications monitored. The trap was closing, and Maya was in complete control. Sunday morning brought an unexpected development. Instead of the continued fighting Maya had anticipated, Jack and Zara seemed to have reconciled. Through her surveillance feed, Maya watched Jack present Zara with an elaborate breakfast and a small jewelry box. "I was wrong yesterday," Jack said, his voice full of manufactured sincerity. "The pregnancy surprised me, but you're right. Maybe it is a sign. Maybe this is exactly what we need to build our future together." Maya leaned forward in her chair, studying Zara's reaction through the camera feed. The younger woman was torn between hope and suspicion, clearly wanting to believe Jack's sudden change of heart. "You really mean that?" Zara asked, accepting the jewelry box with trembling hands. Inside was a diamond necklace that Maya recognized immediately. Jack had given her an identical piece for their 5th wedding anniversary. He was literally recycling his gifts between women. "I've been thinking all night," Jack continued, pulling Zara close. "After the European merger closes, I'll have enough independence to leave Maya cleanly. We can raise this child together, build the life we've talked about." Maya made a note in her evidence file. "Subject employs identical manipulation tactics across multiple relationships. Recycling of gifts confirms pattern of deception." What Jack didn't realize was that his renewed promises were being live-streamed to Maya's command center, where she was building the most comprehensive record of corporate and personal fraud in recent Silicon Valley history. Maya's phone chimed with a message from Detective Rodriguez. "Unusual activity detected. Subject made multiple encrypted calls to offshore accounts. Financial movement suggests he's planning something." Maya frowned and immediately accessed Sterling AI's financial systems. Her worst fears were confirmed. Jack was liquidating assets, moving money to hidden accounts, and preparing to disappear with both the company's resources and its intellectual property. He wasn't planning to divorce Maya and start fresh with Zara. He was planning to flee the country and leave both women holding worthless stock options while he started over somewhere with no extradition treaty. Maya felt a cold fury settle in her chest. Jack's betrayal ran deeper than simple adultery. He was preparing to commit international financial fraud that would destroy not just their marriage, but the livelihoods of Sterling AI's 300 employees. Maya opened her encrypted communication with Elena Vasquez. "Emergency. Subject liquidating assets for flight risk. Need federal involvement immediately. This is beyond divorce law now." Elena's response was immediate. "FBI Financial Crimes Unit already briefed. Your surveillance evidence gives them grounds for immediate asset seizure. Monday morning will be very interesting." Maya stood up and paced her penthouse suite, her mind racing through the implications. Jack wasn't just a serial cheater anymore. He was an international criminal preparing to vanish with millions in stolen capital and intellectual property. She looked down at the hotel suite below, where Jack and Zara were probably celebrating their reconciliation, unaware that they were both about to lose everything. Maya picked up her secure phone and called Detective Rodriguez directly. "Sarah, we need to accelerate the timeline. Jack's planning to run. Can you be ready to move tonight instead of Monday morning? All surveillance equipment can be activated remotely," Rodriguez confirmed. "But Maya, if we move too fast, he might escape completely. Are you sure you want to risk it?" Maya looked out at the city lights, thinking about Sterling AI's employees who had no idea their jobs were about to vanish, about the investors who trusted her family's connections, about Zara who was falling deeper into Jack's web of lies. "He's not escaping," Maya said firmly. "Not this time. Activate everything. Tomorrow morning, Jackson Sterling learns what it feels like to lose everything he thinks he controls. The end game was beginning. Monday morning arrived with the force of a digital tsunami. At exactly 6 a.m., TechCrunch published its exposé, Sterling AI Solutions Built on Stolen Academic Research. The article featured side-by-side comparisons of Zara's MIT thesis and Sterling AI's patent applications, with timestamps proving the chronological impossibility of Jack's claims to original invention. Maya watched the story explode across social media from her Penthouse command center. Within an hour, it had been shared thousands of times, with tech industry leaders calling for investigations into Sterling AI's intellectual property practices. Jack's phone started ringing at 6:15 a.m., and Maya listened through her surveillance feed as he fielded increasingly frantic calls from investors, board members, and journalists. "This is completely fabricated," Jack told the third reporter who called. "Sterling AI Solutions has always maintained the highest ethical standards in our research and development." But Maya could hear the panic in his voice. She'd seen this pattern in corporate crises before the initial denial, followed by desperate attempts at damage control, and finally complete collapse when the evidence became overwhelming. At 7:30 a.m., Zara's phone buzzed with a call from her former MIT advisor, Dr. Patricia Morrison. "Zara, I just saw the TechCrunch article. Are you aware that Sterling AI Solutions has been claiming ownership of your thesis research?" Maya watched through the surveillance camera as the color drained from Zara's face. "What do you mean I work for Sterling AI? My research belongs to the company." "No, Zara. Your MIT research was completed 2 years before you joined Sterling AI. They can't retroactively claim ownership of work you did as a graduate student. This is intellectual property theft on a massive scale." Maya saw Zara look across the hotel suite at Jack, who was still on his phone denying the allegations to another reporter. The pieces were starting to fall into place in Zara's mind. "Dr. Morrison," Zara's voice was barely a whisper, "are you saying that Jack's company stole my work and then hired me to cover it up? I'm saying you need to contact a lawyer immediately. This is potentially criminal fraud, and you're in a position to be either a victim or a witness. Choose carefully." Maya made a note in her evidence file as Zara ended the call and stared at Jack with dawning horror. The first catastrophic realization was hitting Zara wasn't Jack's brilliant protege. She was the victim of corporate theft, hired by the very people who had stolen her life's work. Jack ended his call and immediately noticed Zara's expression. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "The TechCrunch article," Zara said slowly. "It's about my MIT research. The work that made your company successful. The work you claimed you developed." Jack's face went through several expressions before settling on calculated concern. "Zara, you have to understand. The tech industry is complicated. Ideas overlap. Research builds on previous research. There's often confusion about attribution." "Confusion?" Zara's voice rose. "Jack, they're saying you stole my thesis and filed patents under your name. They have timestamps, documentation, proof that I created this technology 2 years before I ever met you." Maya watched Jack deploy the same manipulation tactics she'd seen him use in business negotiations, minimize the problem, shift blame, make the victim doubt their own perception of reality. "The legal team will handle this," Jack said firmly. "It's a hit piece designed to damage the company right before our merger. You know how brilliant you are, Zara. Your current work at Sterling AI is revolutionary. Don't let some jealous competitor make you doubt your contributions." But Zara was no longer the naive young woman who had fallen for Jack's promises. The pregnancy revelation had already cracked her faith in him, and now she was seeing the full scope of his deception. "My contributions," Zara stood up, her voice shaking with rage. Jack, if this article is true, I haven't been making contributions to your company. I've been watching you profit from work I did in graduate school while paying me a fraction of what it's worth. Maya felt a moment of genuine respect for Zara. Under pressure, the young woman was showing the same analytical intelligence that had made her research so valuable. Jack's phone rang again, and Maya could see from the caller ID that it was Tyler Brooks calling with what she knew would be more bad news. The corporate catastrophe was accelerating exactly as Maya had planned. Tyler Brooks's voice came through Jack's phone speaker with barely controlled panic. Jack, we have a massive problem. 3 major investors just pulled out of the European merger. The TechCrunch story has everyone questioning our intellectual property foundation. Maya listened from her penthouse as Jack tried to maintain his composure in front of Zara, but she could see through the surveillance camera that his hands were shaking. Tyler, calm down. We'll schedule an emergency board meeting for this afternoon. I'll explain the situation, provide context. This is manageable. No, Jack, it's not manageable. Elena Vasquez just called me. She's Maya's divorce attorney. She wanted me to know that Maya will be attending the board meeting this morning at 9 a.m. She's calling for your immediate removal as CEO. The color drained from Jack's face completely. Maya smiled from her command center as she watched her husband finally understand that his perfect weekend was actually an elaborate trap. Maya knows, Jack's voice was barely a whisper. Maya has known for months, Jack. She's been building a case against you that goes way beyond simple adultery. Corporate fraud, intellectual property theft, misuse of company assets. She has everything. Zara had been listening to this conversation with growing horror. Now she stood up, backing away from Jack as if he were toxic. You told me Maya was in Boston visiting her sick mother, Zara said, her voice hollow with realization. Jack ended the call with Tyler and turned to face Zara, but Maya could see in his expression that he'd given up pretending. The mask was finally off. Zara, I can explain everything. Explain what that your wife has been watching us this entire weekend, that she knows about the pregnancy, that she's been building a legal case while you've been lying to both of us. Maya's phone chimed with a message from Detective Rodriguez, federal agents in position. Asset seizure warrant signed. Ready to execute on your signal. Maya typed back, hold position. Let them destroy themselves first. Through the surveillance feed, Maya watched Jack attempt one final manipulation. He approached Zara with his hands raised in a gesture of surrender. You're right to be angry. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. But Maya isn't the woman I made her out to be. She's vindictive, calculating. She's using this situation to destroy both of us. Both of us. Zara's voice cracked. Jack, I'm 28 years old. I had my whole career ahead of me. If what that article says is true, if you really did steal my research, then you've ruined my professional reputation before I even had a chance to build it. Maya made a note as she watched Zara finally grasp the full scope of her victimization. This wasn't just about a love triangle or corporate politics. Jack had systematically stolen Zara's intellectual property, exploited her professional vulnerability, and manipulated her into a relationship that would ultimately destroy her career credibility. Jack's phone rang again. This time the caller ID showed Maya's name. Maya answered her own call from the penthouse, knowing that Jack would be terrified to hear her voice. Hello, Jack. Are you enjoying your romantic weekend through the surveillance camera? Maya watched Jack's face go white with terror. He looked around the hotel suite as if expecting Maya to materialize from the shadows. Maya, I can explain everything. No need for explanations, Jack. I've been listening to everything for the past 3 days. Your dismissal of Zara's pregnancy, your plans to liquidate company assets, your decision to flee the country with stolen intellectual property. I have it all recorded." Zara was staring at Jack with complete horror as the final pieces fell into place. Maya continued speaking, her voice calm and professional. "The board meeting starts in 30 minutes. Jack, I suggest you attend, though I doubt you'll enjoy the experience. Oh, and Jack, you might want to check your bank accounts. Federal asset seizure tends to happen very quickly once the evidence is overwhelming." Maya ended the call and watched through the surveillance camera as Jack frantically tried to access his phone's banking apps. When the screens showed frozen accounts and unavailable funds, he threw the phone against the wall in rage. The trap had closed completely, and Maya hadn't even revealed her physical location yet. Maya finally decided it was time for a face-to-face meeting. She called hotel security and had them escort her to the 20th floor, using her master keycard to unlock the suite where Jack and Zara were trapped in their collapse. When Maya walked through the door, both Jack and Zara froze in shock. Maya looked elegant and composed, dressed in a sharp business suit, carrying a tablet and looking like she was attending a corporate presentation rather than confronting her cheating husband. "Hello, Zara," Maya said calmly. "I think it's time we had a proper conversation." Jack started to speak, but Maya held up a hand to silence him. "You've said quite enough, Jack. 3 days of recordings have given me a complete picture of your character. Now I'd like to speak with Zara." Zara looked between Maya and Jack, clearly terrified but also curious. "Mrs. Sterling, I don't know what to say. I had no idea you knew about us. Please, call me Maya. And you're right to be confused, because nothing Jack told you about me was true. I'm not a cold, distant wife. I'm not uninterested in the business. I'm actually the co-founder of Sterling AI Solutions and the holder of 45% of company stock through my family trust." Maya walked to the suite's conference table and set down her tablet, opening a presentation she'd prepared specifically for this moment. "I'm also not some naive victim who just discovered her husband's affair. I've known about you for 3 months. Zara, I've been building a comprehensive case that will destroy Jack's career, recover your stolen intellectual property, and ensure that you have the resources to rebuild your professional reputation." Zara sank into a chair, overwhelmed. "I don't understand. Why would you help me?" Maya's expression softened slightly. "Because Jack didn't just betray his marriage vows. Zara, he committed systematic corporate fraud that victimized you just as much as it victimized me. You're not the villain in this story. You're another one of his victims." Jack finally found his voice. "Maya, you can't prove any of this. Corporate law is complicated. Intellectual property attribution is subject to interpretation." Maya turned to face her husband with a smile that contained no warmth whatsoever. "Jack, I've spent 3 months documenting every aspect of your fraud. I have recordings of you admitting to stealing Zara's research. I have evidence of your embezzlement of company funds. I have proof of your plans to flee the country with liquidated assets." She gestured to her tablet. "I also have testimony from 6 other women you've had affairs with over the past 5 years, using identical promises and manipulation tactics. The FBI Financial Crimes Unit has been building a case based on my evidence for the past month." Maya looked at her watch. "The emergency board meeting started 15 minutes ago. By now, the board has voted to remove you as CEO and authorized criminal referrals to federal prosecutors. Your assets have been frozen. Your passport has been flagged. And Sterling AI Solutions is under new management." Zara looked up with something like hope in her eyes. "What about my research, my career?" "Your research will be properly attributed, and Sterling AI will pay you retroactive royalties plus damages. As for your career, I'm prepared to offer you a position as Chief Technology Officer of the restructured company, with equity compensation and full credit for your innovations." Maya turned back to Jack, who was staring at her with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "You systematically destroyed the lives of women who trusted you. Jack, you stole intellectual property, committed financial fraud, and were preparing to flee the country with millions in stolen assets. Did you really think there would be no consequences?" Jack's phone, lying broken on the floor, began ringing with what Maya knew were calls from FBI agents requesting his presence for questioning. "This is corporate warfare," Jack said desperately. "You're using personal revenge to destroy a successful business." Maya shook her head. "I'm using corporate law to stop a criminal enterprise. There's a difference." She looked at Zara, who was still processing the complete reversal of her situation. "You have a choice to make, Zara. You can try to rebuild your career independently, or you can help me transform Sterling AI Solutions into a company that actually values innovation and treats its employees ethically." Zara met Maya's eyes, and Maya saw the same analytical intelligence that had made the young woman's research so revolutionary. "What would you need from me?" "Testimony about Jack's theft of your intellectual property, cooperation with federal investigators, and your commitment to building a better company culture going forward." Maya gathered her materials and headed toward the door. "The FBI agents waiting in the lobby would like to speak with both of you. Jack, you'll probably want to call a criminal defense attorney. Zara, you'll want to call an intellectual property lawyer to discuss your options." As Maya reached the door, she turned back one final time. "Oh, and Jack, the European merger you were so desperate to close, it's proceeding on schedule, but under new management. It turns out investors prefer dealing with companies that don't commit intellectual property fraud." Maya walked out, leaving Jack and Zara to face the consequences of choices that had been set in motion long before their romantic weekend began. The penthouse trap had worked perfectly. 6 months later, Maya Chen Sterling sat in her corner office as the permanent CEO of Sterling AI Solutions, reviewing the company's dramatically improved financial performance. The federal investigation had not only cleared the company of wrongdoing, but had also recovered millions in stolen intellectual property, making Sterling AI more valuable than ever. Jack Sterling was serving a 3-year sentence for corporate fraud and intellectual property theft. His attempts to flee the country had been thwarted by Maya's advanced coordination with federal authorities. The divorce had been finalized within 60 days, with Jack losing all claims to company assets due to the criminal conviction. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Zara Williams, now the company's chief technology officer. "New algorithm testing complete. We're ready for the product launch next week. Also, thank you again for everything you've done." Maya smiled and typed back, "You earned this position through your talent and hard work. I just made sure you got proper credit for what was always yours." The transformation of Sterling AI Solutions had become a Silicon Valley success story. Under Maya's leadership, the company had implemented revolutionary intellectual property protection policies, employee equity programs, and ethical business practices that had attracted top talent from across the industry. Maya walked to her office window and looked out at the San Francisco skyline. The past 6 months had taught her something important about the difference between revenge and justice. Revenge would have been destroying Jack personally, while ignoring the systemic problems he represented. Justice was building something better from the ruins of his corruption. Her phone rang with a call from Detective Rodriguez, who had become not just a professional ally, but a genuine friend. "Maya, I have some news you'll find interesting. Jack's been trying to write tell-all articles about the case from prison, claiming he was the victim of a vindictive wife's corporate coup." Maya laughed. "Let me guess. No one's interested in publishing his version of events. Exactly. Meanwhile, Harvard Business School wants to do a case study on your corporate restructuring. They're calling it a model for how to transform unethical companies into industry leaders. After ending the call, Maya opened her laptop and reviewed the agenda for next week's board meeting. Sterling AI Solutions was preparing to go public again, with Maya as the majority shareholder and Zara as the lead innovator behind their breakthrough technologies. The IPO was projected to value the company at 3 times its worth under Jack's leadership. Maya's assistant knocked on her office door. "Ms. Chen Sterling, there's a young woman here to see you. She says her name is Jessica Chen, no relation, and she has information about her former employer's intellectual property practices." Maya looked up with interest. "Send her in." As Jessica Chen entered Maya's office, Maya recognized the same mixture of intelligence and vulnerability that she'd seen in Zara Williams 6 months earlier, another brilliant young woman who had probably been victimized by a powerful man's systematic theft and manipulation. "Ms. Chen Sterling," Jessica began nervously, "I work for Meridian Technologies, and I think they've been stealing research from their employees the same way Sterling AI used to. I've been following the news about your case, and I was hoping you might have advice about what to do." Maya gestured for Jessica to sit down and opened a new file on her computer. "Tell me everything," she said. "And don't worry about legal fees or corporate retaliation. Sterling AI Solutions just established a fund to help victims of intellectual property theft." As Jessica began telling her story, Maya realized that the Penthouse trap had been about more than just stopping Jack Sterling. It had been about creating a model for how powerful women could use their resources to protect vulnerable innovators from systematic exploitation. The cycle of corporate predation was about to face another devastating opponent. 1 year after the Penthouse confrontation, Maya Chen Sterling received an unexpected phone call that would bring her story full circle. The caller was a young tech journalist named Marcus Rivera, working on a documentary about corporate fraud in Silicon Valley. "Ms. Chen Sterling, I've been investigating a pattern of intellectual property theft that seems to extend far beyond the Sterling AI case. Your investigation appears to have uncovered just the tip of the iceberg." Maya was intrigued. "What exactly have you found?" At least 12 major tech companies have been using similar tactics to steal research from their employees, particularly targeting young women and minorities who are less likely to have the resources to fight back. Your case has inspired several other victims to come forward. Maya felt a familiar surge of anger mixed with determination. The Penthouse trap had been designed to stop one predator, but it had accidentally revealed a much larger systemic problem. "Mr. Rivera, I'd like to meet with you and discuss how Sterling AI Solutions might be able to help these other victims." 3 hours later, Maya sat in her conference room with Marcus Rivera, Detective Rodriguez, and Elena Vasquez, reviewing evidence of what appeared to be an industry-wide conspiracy to exploit vulnerable innovators. "The pattern is almost identical in every case," Elena explained, pointing to a chart on the conference room screen. "Target brilliant young researchers with limited financial resources, offer them employment contracts with complex intellectual property clauses, steal their existing research through legal technicalities, use their ongoing work to generate millions in revenue while paying them standard salaries," Detective Rodriguez added. "And in most cases, the companies also use personal relationships to compromise the victims emotionally, making them less likely to pursue legal action." Maya studied the evidence with growing fury. Jack Sterling hadn't been an isolated criminal. He'd been part of a systematic exploitation network that had been stealing innovations from vulnerable researchers for years. "How many victims are we talking about?" Maya asked. Marcus consulted his notes. "So far, I've identified 43 cases across the tech industry. The estimated value of stolen intellectual property is over $200 million. Maya stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city where so many brilliant minds were probably being exploited at that very moment. Elena, what would it take to file a class action lawsuit that could address all of these cases simultaneously? Elena smiled, recognizing the same strategic thinking that had made the Sterling AI case so successful. With your documentation as a template and Sterling AI's resources as backing, we could build the largest intellectual property fraud case in Silicon Valley history. Maya turned back to the group. Then that's exactly what we're going to do. Over the next 6 months, Maya transformed Sterling AI Solutions into the headquarters for what the media dubbed the Innovation Liberation Movement. Using the company's profits and Maya's strategic networking, they built a legal and investigative team that systematically documented intellectual property theft across the tech industry. The movement's first major victory came when Meridian Technologies, the company Jessica Chen had worked for, was forced to pay $50 million in damages to victims of intellectual property theft. The CEO was criminally prosecuted and sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. But Maya's greatest satisfaction came from watching the victims rebuild their careers. Zara Williams had become not just Sterling AI's CTO, but an industry leader advocating for ethical research practices. Jessica Chen had started her own company using the intellectual property that Meridian Technologies had stolen from her. On the second anniversary of the Penthouse confrontation, Maya received a handwritten letter from an unexpected source. It was from Jack Sterling, writing from federal prison. Maya, the letter read, I've had 2 years to think about what I did to you, to Zara, and to all the other women whose lives I damaged. I know this doesn't change anything, but I want you to know that I finally understand the difference between success and achievement. You built something real and lasting. I just stole from people who trusted me. I hope someday I can contribute to fixing the problems I helped create. Maya read the letter twice, then filed it in her personal archives. It wasn't an apology that could undo the damage Jack had caused, but it was acknowledgement that her strategy of systematic justice had achieved something that simple revenge never could actual change. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Zara. Just saw the news about the Harvard case study. From Penthouse Trap to Industry Transformation, a study in strategic corporate justice. You're going to be famous. Maya typed back, we're all going to be famous. And more importantly, the next generation of innovators is going to be protected. As Maya looked out her office window at the San Francisco skyline, she reflected on how the Penthouse trap had evolved from personal revenge into something much more significant. The surveillance equipment, the strategic planning, the careful documentation had all been designed to destroy one man's criminal enterprise. Instead, it had sparked a movement that was transforming an entire industry. The most dangerous woman, Maya had learned, wasn't the one who cried or the one who sought revenge. It was the one who turned her pain into power and used that power to protect others from experiencing the same injustice. The Penthouse had been a trap, but it had also been the birthplace of a revolution that would protect brilliant minds for generations to come. And that transformation made every moment of the careful, calculated planning worthwhile.